Good afternoon and welcome to today's lunch break with the Rabbi. Today, as we see, we started putting a little subject titles for those that are watching on YouTube, so you can get a little snippet of what we're going to be talking about today. Living the good life. As we usually do on a Monday, we start off with the Torah reading of the week so you know what the week is about. And then on Thursday and Friday, we recap our weekly discussion in the Torah reading. And during the week, we talk about some fascinating facts. While we also have some fascinating facts today as well. Just a little bit of a commercial announcement over here. First of all, tomorrow we begin our course of Secrets of the Bible. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the sin of the tree of knowledge, the deeper meaning behind it, and I'm sure you will thoroughly enjoy it. That's jewishally.com/JLI Fall. I encourage you all to please sign up for the class and watch it. At least start with tomorrow's, and if you like it, you're more than welcome to join it and get a book to follow along as well. You can either join us in person, we will have socially distanced, or you can join us online from the comfort of your own bedroom, living room, dining room, wherever you'd like, and join us on Zoom. The link will be sent out later today. Also, I would like to encourage you all to visit jewishally.com/raffle and participate in our raffle and buy some tickets and win some prizes and share it with your friends. Today, we're going to start with the Torah reading of Chaye Sarah, which is this week's Torah reading, the life of Sarah. Any person looking into this week's Torah reading will notice that when they read the Torah reading, it's far about the life of Sarah, but it's unfortunately about the passing of Sarah. And we're going to look at Sarah's life for just a moment. There was once the 7-year-old granddaughter sitting on her grandfather's lap, and she's rubbing her grandfather's arm, and she feels how his skin is all wrinkled and bumpy. And then she feels her own skin in her own arm, and she tells, "Hey, Grandpa, why is yours so bumpy and mine is so smooth, huh? You think God's getting better at it these days?" When we look at life, and one of the most difficult parts of life is sometimes the getting old. And getting old, as we say in the prayers on the Slichos, we say it on Yom Kippur, we ask of God, Al tashlichenu li'ezikna, don't throw us to elder life. Don't throw us in the nursing homes. Don't put us in old life. We want to stay young. We all wish we could stay young. What's wrong with getting old? What's the problem with getting old? In fact, Judaism looks at a person that's older, a person that has experience, smarter, more understood. The very fact they've experienced many different life experiences. But in this week's Torah reading, when it talks about Sarah's life, it tells us something very unique. It says that Sarah, the life of Sarah, when she says she lived 100 years, she lived 20 years, she lived 7 years. And the commentaries ask, why does the Torah put the word year in between each one? And quickly, Rashi, which is the foremost commentator on the Torah, says, Bas kuf kibashchof, that when she was 100 years old, she was like a 20-year-old. Age didn't matter to her. She didn't age. She was able to give birth to a child at 100 years old, just like a 20-year-old. She was as beautiful as 100 as 20. She had a wonderful life as 100 as a 20-year-old. But is that really true? Did Sarah have such a good life? Was things so easy for Sarah? Let's just look a few weeks ago or last week. When God tells her that you're going to have a child, what's her first statement? She looks at her skin and she says, am I really able to have a child at 100 years old, at 90 years old? My husband's 190, I'm not going to have a child. How is that possible? And she look at her life. Tormentation. She didn't have a child for so long. She went from one place to the next place. She left her parents' home, and then she was in Egypt. She was captured by Pharaoh. She was captured by Avimelech. Was that really a good life? That the Torah tells us like 100, like 20? Then look at her passing. How does she die? The Medrash tells us that she saw Abraham taking her only son, as we read in the last week's Torah reading, and putting him for a sacrifice on the altar. And with that, she passed away. What more aggravating for a mother to see their only child about to be slaughtered? And that we call a good life. How can we say that Sarah lived a good life? So over here we have perspective of what does it mean, a good life? What does it mean to live life? What does it mean to actually live life? They say there was this fellow that walked into a village and he was walking through the cemetery and he saw on the different tombstones, this person lived 3 years, this person lived 5 years, this person lived 2 years. So he asked one of the villagers, this is very sad. Everybody in this town lived for a very short life. So he told him, no, you don't understand. Every single person here in this village walked around with a notebook. And when they felt that they did something that was purposeful, then they said they lived their life. But if they lived just another day because it passed, they didn't count that as their day of their life. So they only checked off the days that they actually did something meaningful. Only then did they live life. Our sages tell us about Abraham. Avram Zaken, when Avram got old, God blessed him with everything. He was able to feel every single day of his life accomplished. Every single day of his life, he has done something purposeful. There was not one day wasted. Every single day he woke up in the morning, there was something special and unique that he did that day that he didn't do the day before. Every single day was purposeful. When we look at Sarah's life as well, Sarah was a person who she brought product into this world, meaning the good deeds that she's done, the people that she helped. Every single one of them was a productive day of her life. Here we talk about what does it mean a good life? Yes, she had troubles. Yes, of course, she went through different types and periods in her life, whether it was not having children, dealing with her maidservant, being captured by Pharaoh, whatever you want to take the tumultuous life that she had. But that's not how you measure a good life. Measuring a good life is what you have done and what you've accomplished. And Sarah has accomplished much. Just take the contrast of Avram and Sarah. They say a story in the Talmud that once there was a time that the Jewish people were in need of rain. And they went to the great Talmudic scholar, Abu Chilkio, was very well known, that he was a person who was of great stature, that he would have and be able to pray for the Jewish people for rain. And when they came to his home, him and his wife went up to the roof to pray to God that rain should come for the Jewish people. And they saw a cloud, a great cloud, come upon of where his wife was praying, while by him the great cloud didn't come yet, only much later. And of course the rain became, and the Jewish people had rain. They asked him later on, why is it that your wife had the great cloud, her prayers were answered first? And he answered as follows. He says, when somebody comes to me to ask me for help, what do? I give them a coin. I give them money. Then they have to take the money. They have to buy food and find a way to help themselves with it. But when they come to my wife and they need food, she doesn't give them money. She gives them ready-made food. She gives them what they need right away. She doesn't make them go and have to buy the food and get the food and whatever it may be. She sees the need and fills the void. And because of that, the rain came to her. Her prayers were answered more immediate. because she helps people immediately. When we look at the difference between a husband and a wife, or a man and a woman, or in any relationship, men have wonderful ideas. And of course, the women are more practical. We see this in Abraham and Sarah. Abraham saw as his son Isaac having a little dispute with Ishmael. Immediately, Sarah says, get rid of that child. Abraham says, why? Sarah was she was idealistic, but she was practical. She saw the effects that it may have on Yitzchak. Abraham wasn't able to see that. Sarah lived a life, she was able to see the practical in everything. Yes, there were tumultuous times, but she was able to see the practical part of living life to its best. But how did she pass away? She passed away from a sudden injection of seeing a desperate time of her child being bound on an altar. She was not told about this beforehand. Had she been educated what was going on, maybe she wouldn't have died of shock. Abraham had the chance. God expressed to him this detail, your son, the one you love, what you're going to do. He had time to generate it, to feel it. But by Sarah, it says the Satan lifted her and showed her, gave her this shock. Teaching us a very important lesson in relationships. You know, a lot of times things are going along very well, but all of a sudden things become boring. I need a shock to be able to invigorate the relationship. So Judaism gives us the tools to do that. But at the same time, that shock can also have sometimes a negative reoccurrence, a negative side effect to it. So the question is, what do we do? Over here, we need to have the Abraham and Sarah, the pragmatic and the idealistic. That's a true harmonious relationship. When you have the idealistic Abraham, but at the same time, the pragmatic Sarah. This is the good life that Sarah lived. When she was 100, she was like 20. She was able to see the pragmatic in every single aspect of her life. She had faith, but it was the shock that didn't allow her to internalize it, which brought her to her passing. We are pragmatic, but sometimes when we become too pragmatic and we forget about the idealistic, that doesn't help us as well. But looking at Sarah's life, how can we see her whole entire life for good? Was because the very fact that every single day of her life, she made purposeful. And I want to leave you with just one last thought. A little bit of a play on words, on what the words of Rashi says. Her 100 years was like her 20 years. In the book of Psalms, Psalm 20 is asking God, hear my salvation, answer my prayer. Psalm 100 is thanking God for the miracles of life. Sarah was a person who thanked God the same way she asked God for something. Many times we ask of God and we pray and we pray. We see Psalm 20 100 times that God should answer our prayers. And when our prayers are answered, we say Psalm 100, maybe not as good. The thanking is all of a sudden lost. Over here, the Torah teaches us 100 should be like 20, the same opportunity that you used and the same emotion and attention that you used to ask God for something. So too, when you thank God, use that same emotion, use that same concentration. Thank God for what you have, and you won't need to ask God for what you need. And all your days will be purposeful, happy, and healthy. My prayer is to all of you. Let us learn from Sarah. Let's make every single day count. And let us make sure to thank God for the godly blessings we have, so we won't need to ask God for more of those blessings. God bless you with an abundance of happiness and health and all the good news. I'm looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow at 1 p.m. All the best.